We've started bringing speakers in who can add some kind of nugget of information or value to both your day and your work and your sales process generally. And we're particularly pleased today to have with us our speaker who's from the north. And I don't mean Milton Keynes or Crouch End, I mean all the way from Durham?
Yes.
All the way. So thank you very much for making a huge effort to tie us into your schedule in London today. Nicola here is an accomplished speaker. She's an authoress of not just 2, but soon to be 3 books.
Yeah.
2 of which you can buy online on Amazon, which I'm sure Nicola will be able to plug as part of her speech. And the 3rd book, which you probably picked up some of the handouts which are around the desk here, and she'll tell us a little bit about that. So I'm very pleased to welcome Nicola Cook to talk to us about sales and the sales process and your forthcoming book.
Absolutely, thank you very much. Well, thank you very much for inviting me here today. I have written a few notes just so I don't go off track, because as you kindly said, I'm from the north, which means I've got a god the size of the time, and I can talk all day. But when I was thinking about what would be relevant to talk about, one of the things that I've been noticing very much in the work that I do, so let me start and explain what I do. So my business is called Company Shortcuts, and we help growing businesses, or what we like to call scale-up businesses, accelerate their sales growth by helping them implement a scalable and profitable sales engine for their business. And that covers 4 key areas: improving and refining their sales strategy, helping them design and implement and recruit and build the right kind of sales team or teams that are needed to deliver on that, and then making sure that those teams are equipped with the right tools that they need to do the job, and tactically they have the right skill sets to execute the strategy. So that's what I do, and I've been in sales all my life. So I started as a corporate salesperson. My first job was with American Express, and then I worked in Procter & Gamble and Gucci and some quite big brands, and then I also worked in very, very small businesses. So in my early 30s, which now seems like a very long time ago, the answer there is you meant to say you don't look it, you don't look it. Is I worked for a very small company. I worked for a very fast-growing company, and I remember walking in on day 1 and asking all these sort of questions like, so what's your marketing strategy? And their answer was, what's marketing strategy? Or where's all your data? And they went, well, you see that big pile of paper in the corner? And so those answers went on. And long story short is I realised that I had quite a unique view, because I had that experience of working in quite a small but growing business, and over the 4 years I worked there as their sales director, I helped them grow and accelerate and actually exit that company. And that's when I started my own firm in 2004. But I was able to bring some of those nuggets that I'd learned from that big sort of corporate understanding of how a really refined sales engine works. So what I do now on a day-to-day basis is help businesses who are ambitious and want to grow, and they have a desire, they want to grow because their growth is flat for some reason and they can't seem to push through to the next level. Or they're on the other side of the coin where they've got a really successful model and a good business model and a great offer, and it's taking off like Billy-O, and they can't control it. And they're hiring people as fast as they can, and they're firing them as fast as they can. And depending on which side of the coin they are, then we have solutions that will help with all of those. So this is what I've noticed. So sales and the world of sales has changed phenomenally, and it's accelerating the pace at which it's changing. All of us who have a few grey hairs in the room will remember, the days before the internet and connectivity the way that it is now, and people want to buy and purchase from us, whether you're in B2C or B2B, very differently than they did even 5 years ago, never mind 10 years ago. And I believe that that's happened because 2 things have collided at the same time. The first one is the availability of connectivity and the access to 4G at the end of your thumb. And the second part is the improvement of smartphone technology. So there is actually research on this from America that has mapped the buying process in terms of the buyer's mind as to when they want to contact you as a potential supplier and when they want to engage with your sales function. And before that world collided and the buyer had more access to more information as easily as they do now, they would normally be about 20–25% of the way into their thinking that they might need your product or service when they would reach out to you. And that might be they would fill out a form on the website, they would pick up the phone, they would respond to an advert or a flyer, or meet you at a networking event or an exhibition. These days, that timeline has been pushed right back to buyers, potential new prospects, do not want to have a conversation with you until they are now 70 to 75% of the way into thinking that they may need your product or service. And that creates a massive dilemma for businesses now, because we're still thinking that we need to build sales teams in the way that we did in the 80s and the 90s, and it's no longer like that anymore. So how do you kind of handle that? And the upshot of that is it's forcing the types of customer relationships into two polling parts. On one side, there's very transactional business, where if people can find the answer, they can research it online, and they can get access to the solution or the product that they want. 93% of people, once they've made their decision, would prefer to buy online than actually speak to somebody. And even in the B2B world, there is statistics now that tell us that 69% of B2B buyers have been purchasing for online for 7 years or more. So if you think that's only retail, then don't be illusioned. Or the other side of the spectrum, in terms of the different types of buying relationships, is where people have very complex needs and things need to be bespoke or tailor-made, or they've got to be talked through the solution. Then they still want to have a conversation with you, but they're still going to research without you to begin with. So does that mean that you should no longer hire salespeople or need sales expertise? Absolutely not. But it creates a new challenge, because if you think that that buyer is going through their own research phase and you don't even know about them until they're about 70-75% of the way into buying, then that gives you a much shorter opportunity to be able to influence that decision. So your sales teams and your people involved in that now need to be even better, even more skilled, have more, more social selling skills than they ever had before, and be much more equipped to be able to handle those types of inquiries and recognize them how they come in. Which links me nicely to my next point, that no longer is sales a department, it needs to be a culture. No longer can you isolate this part of your business and give it to one or two people and say, go out and bring home the dough. It has to be culture that cuts right the way through the heart of the organization. So, what can you do about this, and how can you embrace this but actually get ahead of the game and make sure that you're building a sales engine that allows you to grow despite these challenges? So I've listed 5 things, 5 ideas that I thought I would just fire out at you. The first one is to specialize the competencies within your sales engine. And when I start to work with businesses, I tend to look at them in 4 key areas in terms of the sales and marketing expertise. The first one is your lead generation engine. You should not have good salespeople, which might be you, even if you don't label yourself as in sales, which most people don't. But if you're the person that actually closes the most amount of business, you should not be doing your own lead generation. There should be a lead generation engine that is feeding you qualified leads. So a lead engine is point number 1. Second specialism is qualification, or what we like to call inbound lead response. So there should be somebody in your business where the only job that they have to do is to manage all of that massive data set that is now happening, where you can see real-time data of who's downloading what blogs, which events they've been to, which pages they've been to, who's following you on Twitter, who's just connected on LinkedIn, and sifting through all of that to be able to understand how to qualify those people and either put up higher up the priority list, the ones that you should be talking to, or put into a nurturing campaign the ones that are not quite ready yet. The third one is closers, or in most B2B professional businesses, these are the professionals. So these are probably a lot of your people, where You should only be dealing with people who are already way through that buying cycle. They've already had a ton of information that they might have collected themselves, or they've downloaded off your website, or they've started a conversation with somebody in your business, or they've filled out a pre-qualification questionnaire, and you're there to help answer some of their questions. And you should be doing that part of the closing. And then the fourth area is a new area where this is strategic outbound sales. So this is the top 10 or 15 strategic clients that you want to get into, that you want to have a relationship with. And if you can specialize that person or that team only focusing on that part of the process, then again, you'll increase your number of qualified leads coming through. So point one was specialize your competency set within your sales and marketing team. Number two is embrace technology. You know, I can remember back in the day having an argument with my then MD and trying to justify to him why I needed to have a very expensive laptop as opposed to a desktop computer, because that would allow me to be out and be mobile. And these days you should be able to run your sales processes from a smartphone. There's everything, all the data that you or your teams might need should be available to be accessible at the press of a button. You know, who's looking at the website now, who's downloaded what calls do you need to be doing today, and so on and so forth. So embrace technology and bring together the sales and marketing part of that process. Those two things must be combined, and the reporting needs to be combined. Automate, if you've got a very transactional model, automate that lead nurture as much as possible, and introduce automated qualification criteria that people might need, which will help you serve them better and segment the data or your prospects as they're coming into your funnel. Number three is be visible. And this is where this like topic of thought leadership kind of appears. So when people are researching you, they need to find you. But it's about thinking about be visible, saying what and where. And you only need to be visible on the platforms or in the environments where your prospects are or where your ideal clients already are. So don't worry, you don't need to be on Instagram and Twitter and LinkedIn and Facebook and at every networking event or at every exhibition. It's where are your clients. So do that, because there are some sectors that there are differences. So don't feel like you have to be everywhere. Be where it's relevant. But this is the key thing, is the messages that you put out should be, think through the sales process in terms of what might your buyers be looking for and the questions that they would be asking at that time, and make that the topics that you would be putting out there. So they don't directly sell your business or your service offering. I'll give you an example. I was with a client of mine last week, and they're a steel fabrication company. And when we were looking at their blog and all of their thought leadership, it was all about them. It was all about news and this and that, and we're great and we do that, and fantastic here and fantastic there. And I was like, yeah, but that's not going to get you any hits. You know, no one's going to be interested in that. No one's looking for that. It's good for credibility, but it's not actually going to help you acquire any new customers. So we did a list of what are the questions that their prospective buyers will be looking for at the point of the cycle that they're starting to research the kinds of companies that they offer, and come up with a list, and that should be your blogs, that should be your articles, that should be the things that either go into print or online. So that was number three. Number four is codify and template everything as you start to grow. And even if you are you know, reasonably small now, don't take it for granted. Because in my experience of working with small businesses that are starting to grow, is there's a point where every entrepreneur has this amazing leadership style, which is called leadership by osmosis. And it's just like, well, just copy me, and can't you mind read what I'm thinking? And then they get frustrated that people start going off and creating silos and doing things differently. And there is genius already in your business. I can't tell you how many times I've sat with people, and you know, I've seen templates of emails that they've got. Oh, well, that's just what I send out. And it works? Yeah. Right, why isn't that centralized? Oh, this is the introduction I use on LinkedIn. Or when somebody asks me this question, this is I've got an Outlook signature that I've made it easy, so I just hit the button and off it goes, and I'm going, so why isn't that shared? So start to think about how you can take what's working really well and put it into, we call it Sales Bible. Start to put it into a Bible so that as you start to grow, one, you can refine it, two, it makes it scalable, and three, it accelerates that growth phase. So you don't have, everybody, you can shortcut, clue in the name there, the next person's induction and getting them up to speed. And then the final one is involve everybody and make this cultural. You know, as I said earlier, sales is not a department and can't be anymore. It has to be a culture. It has to cut right through the heart of everything that you do. And you know, does everybody understand that the customer pays the bill? And that without the sale, nobody else in the organisation needs to exist. And do you have that level of focus on income generation and customer acquisition and customer retention and customer love within your organisation? And a great way to bring a team together to help them do that is to map it from beginning to end, where you get everybody around a table with a blank sheet of paper and a ton of post-it notes, and you map the process from when somebody doesn't even know that we exist to them being a customer who we love and they love us. What are all the different stages that we go through, and where does everybody fit together? And I often say, would your organisation pass the Friday afternoon test? Because this for me is a good test as to whether this is embedded within the business, which is it's 10 to 5 on a Friday, okay, and somebody has on their desk 3 really important things to do that are all customer related, and they can only choose one that they're going to get finished. So they're not going to get all of them done. There's no opportunity to delegate, and they have to leave the office at 5:30. So those are the parameters. What would they choose, and how would they make that decision? And would they choose the same thing that you would do? Because if they're making their decisions based on profit and profitability of customers or customer potential, then you've got that culture right. You've got that culture embedded. But if they're making their decision based on which is the easiest that's going to definitely get me out the office by 5:30, which is the customer that I like the most, or which is the one that, you know, I know I'm going to get out, you know, whatever, is then perhaps there might be a little bit of work to be done there in terms of them understanding where the profit comes from within the business. So I've got 2 more points just to make on before I finally close on my 5 points. So my 5 points, just to recap, was specialise your team, embrace technology, be visible, codify everything, and make it cultural. And my final closing points are max the sales hours of the day. There's a really easy way to accelerate sales, and it's just to do more. And we hide behind so much stuff. And you know, again, my experience of all the businesses that I've worked with and my business works with is there's just not enough proactive sales activity happening on a day-to-day basis. So I'll give you a quick tip. There are 4 key windows in the week where research has proven that you are more likely to get a positive sales results. And it's a Wednesday morning between 8 and 10, and a Wednesday afternoon between 4 and 6, and a Thursday morning between 8 and 10, and a Thursday afternoon between 4 and 6. So even if you're a small business, even if you don't have a dedicated sales team or a complex sales organisation, if you can just focus your organisation on those 8 hours in the week and lock it down as if it was, you know, something that you couldn't change, and do something proactive, then you will accelerate sales. And your job is to find the algorithm, because within every sales engine lies an algorithm. And if you can find, through understanding what you do that drives success, so what activity you and your business does that leads to successful results, then that's the magic, and that's when you can scale with confidence. So I hope that's given you a few things to think about. Thank you very much.